Hi everyone, meteorologist Joel Curtis with your aviation weather. Starting out with our flying conditions Wednesday morning, we've got extensive IFR up through the Bering Strait, also working its way to the southern part of the Seward Peninsula, as well as a little bit into Norton Sound, but mainly along the western capes from Cape Romanzoff on down to Cape Newenham, a little bit into Bristol Bay, Nunivak Island, and then lots of marginal VFR out over the Bering Sea. We also have some IFR conditions for Cook Inlet. That'll be our morning low stratus that we get a lot of time this year. Lots of marginal VFR conditions out over the Gulf, a little bit into the interior. And then, but into the afternoon, notice how all of South Central really clears out. Southeast Alaska's in real good shape. That marine stratus remains out over the Gulf of Alaska. And now let's take a look at the IFR conditions on Wednesday afternoon with the Western Brooks Range, also up to the southern Seward Peninsula, as well as the Western Capes again, and out by the Pribilofs, and a little bit in the far western Aleutians. For Thursday morning, that IFR moves even further inland into the central Brooks Range, a little bit into the interior of the North Slope, as well as the Seward Peninsula, all across the southwestern Alaska, and some even into Bristol Bay, and a second band of IFR that's out over the western Bering Sea and down through the Aleutians. And you'll note that Southeast Alaska still has some really good flying conditions, that marine stratus staying out over the Gulf. And then we have, for Thursday afternoon, that marine stratus increases out of the Gulf, but it's still not affecting the Panhandle. South Central looks like some really good flying. A little bit of marginal VFR in the eastern interior, as well as we got some IFR along the eastern Brooks Range. And then also we've got IFR off of Point Hope, down through the Bering Strait, into the southern Seward Peninsula, and then all along the western coast, including Bristol Bay and the Pribilofs and much of the central Bering Sea. So for our pass conditions, starting out with Anaktuvuk, VFR becoming marginal VFR later in the day. Same thing for Adigan Pass, VFR becoming marginal VFR. For Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, that IFR really is going to be on the Cook Inlet side with that marine stratus and Cook Inlet, but improving to VFR in the afternoon. Rainy Pass, VFR all day. Windy Pass, VFR. Isabel Pass, VFR. Mentasta Pass, VFR. Tahitna Pass, IFR becoming VFR. And then for Portage, IFR with that low stratus along Turnagain Arm becoming VFR in the afternoon. And Chilkoot and White Pass in that really good flying area over there in southeast Alaska, VFR. So then looking at our freezing levels, first of all, we got a surface line. It drifts slowly northward during the morning, becoming about a roughly freezing level of about 1,000 feet or so. And then when you got the 2,000-foot line through southeast Alaska, but offshore from Kodiak Island, and then 4,000 as you get out into the Gulf of Alaska. But note that this still is pretty much of a wintertime air mass. So then let's take a look at our icing. It's a deep layer in that southwest flow aloft. So what we've got is considerable moderate for the area, almost the entire west coast, including Norton Sound. We have Kotzebue Sound, much of the Alaska Peninsula, and on into the interior, and then also some considerable moderate icing down by the Pribilofs and then down into the eastern Aleutians. And then a large area of the west is going to be isolated moderate icing. And then for our jet stream, there's that southwest flow aloft with a core up to 115 knots, up to 70 knots as you get further up into the western coast. And then looking at our 9,000-foot winds, we've got several bands of 55 to 60 knots moving into the southwestern interior as well as through the Bering Strait, and a little bit up by Kotzebue, about 45 knots or so. Some weak northerlies over the northwestern Canada, and then offshore northeasterlies off of Dixon Entrance. And then for our 3,000-foot winds, several small areas of about 50 knots in the southwestern Alaska, as well as out into the Chukchi Sea, off the Pribilofs, and then we have one band of 70 knots just south of the Alaska Peninsula and 50 knots over the Alaska Peninsula as well. So what that's going to do is cause some of our areas of turbulence. So we have an extensive area of isolated turbulence. It's a fairly shallow layer, surface to about 4,000, drop off to the surface to about 3,000 as you get further north. So the areas of considerable moderate are the eastern end of the Beaufort Sea. We also have some off of Point Hope, as well as those ocean capes and Nunivak Island from Cape Newenham to Cape Romanzoff, and then a little bit southwest of the Pribilofs. So that's it, folks. Please remember to file a flight plan and fly safe out there.